Hello and welcome to Tea with a Druid. Really lovely to see there's already Barbara. Where are you, Barbara? Alexandria.
The air is magical and the crows are in fine form.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear.
Welcome, Barbara. And Keith. Bright blessings from Vancouver. Great to see you too. And Tara. Oh, people are popping in now. Welcome to Catherine as well, and Kai. Catherine from Calgary. And Richard. Robbie Pearson from Kent. Welcome to all of you joining us for Tea with a Druid here. And we come bearing greetings from Philip, who's in Glastonbury today, doing some talks and ceremonies there. And really feeling very honoured to join you all today as Children's Forest. And yeah, really great. Oh, lots of people popping in now. But welcome to Stacey and Cindy, Sue, Greg and Carla from so many places in the world. It's great to see that, connect with you all through this kind of magical portal of a computer. So I'm Anna.
Oh, hello. I'm just in the back room here. I'm River, and I was just in the background because Anna and Erica had never done a broadcast before, and we seem to have suddenly lost them. So can only guess that they may have an internet issue where they are in the Forest of Dean in Sussex. Not the Forest of Dean, the Ashdown Forest. They're in the middle of the Ashdown Forest here in Sussex. I wasn't expecting to be speaking to you, but it's lovely to be here. And I am hoping and praying that Anna and Erica will find their way back onto the stream. I think I'm just going to I'll try and call them in a minute if they don't arrive back. But in the meanwhile, actually, I'll try and call them now, just in case they aren't aware that we've lost them. In the meantime, I can tell you a little bit about the Children's Forest, if you haven't heard about it already. Oh, here they are. Fantastic.
You're back.
Okay.
Hello.
I'll remove myself and leave you back with Anna and Erica again.
Our apologies. The technology pixies are joining us this evening as well, but we're glad to be back. Yeah, in the Children's Forest, the idea is that we can create and imagine a bright future for the children of all species. And so we do this through nature connection with children so that they have a reason to appreciate nature and to feel that they're part of it and to feel home in themselves and to home in the world, which gives us a really beautiful home. And that feels like a really important part of the puzzle. And then we also do work with imagination, because before anything can happen, we need to imagine it. And so we spend time imagining the future which we would really love there to be, and something that we can really get on board with and really feel excited about creating and supporting and dreaming into. So we do work with the imagination and with dreaming into our future. And then we do tree planting with children. And as we plant the trees, we really try and imagine these trees growing to old age, and we speak to the children about how it will be when their children can come and visit these forests and their grandchildren can come, and try and think about the many future generations which will come and enjoy these forests. And the last step of Children's Forest, so there's 4 stages to that, and the last stage is tending the forests. And as we come back and we tend the trees and we help them grow, because trees need a lot of tending after they've been planting, and we also tend the community which has arisen around the Children's Forest. And so we invite in the wider community, and we return and have celebrations and light the children's fire and create habitats for the creatures. And tend the trees as they grow. Anything you would like to add? That may not have been super clear.
No, I think that's really great. Yeah. So Philip and River really wanted to invite us along to speak to you about it and share a little something about our journey with the children and the vision of the project and how it's unfolding. And just want to really thank OBOD actually, because there's been a lot of support from River and Philip and Steph particularly, including supporting us financially with planting the forest with the children. And we really very much feel that connection to the land, the deep connection to the trees, and yeah, that honouring of the cycles. And yeah, we're very aligned and feel very blessed to connect in with the work that all of you are doing as well, and that heart of that work. So yeah, we wanted to share a little bit of how we work with the children. And one of the main practices, we always begin our sessions. So most of the people on our team work with children as forest school leaders or nature connection mentors with young people. And one of the teachings that's come down to us is the practice of gratitude, which I'm sure you're all really aware of. So the gratitude practice really comes from, I believe, all different indigenous traditions from around the world, but how it came to us was through the Haudenosaunee people in America. And there, when the tribes gather for any kind of council, they begin every session that they ever do with the Thanksgiving address, in order to bring our hearts and minds together with the creation around us and all the nature around us that supports our lives. And what that does is it brings our hearts and minds together. So we'd like to just really start this session with a Thanksgiving address and really honour the Haudenosaunee people for that and how that's come to us. So we start all our sessions with children with, what are you feeling thankful for today? You know, and it is a really precious way to begin. So yeah, really like to take a moment, and you're welcome to close your eyes and just feel into this as well if you want to. So sending our greeting and our gratitude to the Mother Earth, this beautiful planet that we travel on and are born from, and sending our awareness into her beating live heart, right in her core, her fiery core, where that, her life force bubbles up and sustains us. And then if we imagine up and through her heart into the rocks and the minerals, the bones of the earth, and all the ways that the rocks and crystals and metals and minerals really support our lives and are the foundation of this thin crust of incredible life sustaining foundation for our lives. So we thank the mountains and the rock people who watch over our lives and remember the very beginning of time on this earth, and remembering the soil and all the little creatures who dwell there. They say that in an acorn's worth of good soil, there's more living beings than human beings on the whole planet, of more living beings, I should say, sorry, than the human beings on the whole planet. So this incredible, vibrant, living soil that supports all the plants to grow and to sustain our lives, to grow our food and our vegetables, and in there in the forest, all the mycelial networks, all those fungi and the mycorrhizae, those incredibly fine connective threads that link all the roots of the trees and plants together and help the forest to communicate. And we send our greetings and thanks to all of those beings that help the soil to be alive so that life can flourish. And then we remember the plant people. We remember all those plants that give themselves to us for food, and all the medicine plants that protect us from illness and help us to be in good health in all their different medicine ways, all the ways that we know about and all the myriad of medicines that we're just finding out about, and all the way that they have supported our people and the animals since time began. And we remember the trees, the beautiful trees that really they make the soil, they hold their roots, hold the soil firm so that life can be solid and good, and help the waterways to again be held firm and in their right places to flow. The trees that help to breathe up that moisture from the earth and send it out in their breath to help form clouds, to help form our weather systems and bring the life-giving rains. And we remember how they have this, all the plant people can just transform sunshine into their bodies and then share that sunshine with us, whether that be through the food that they give us, or also the wood for our fires, and to bring that sunshine to us in that unique way. So we send our greeting and thanks to all the trees and plants and to the earth herself.
Thank you. We send our greetings and thanks to all of the creatures of the earth, the creeping, crawling creatures who live in the soil and tend it, the creatures who live on top of the soil. We give thanks for all of the animals that live on the earth and the many gifts which they embody and the many ways in which they teach us how to be in our gift and in good relationship with the environment around them. We see how they live within their ecosystems in a way which is sustaining and balanced. We give thanks for the birds, for the flying creatures. We give thanks for their song and for their movement and how they inspire us to lift our spirits up into the sky. And we learn from the way that they live. And we give greetings and thanks to the water creatures who live in the oceans and the rivers and who live well together and tend our waters. And we give thanks for the waters themselves, the water that connects all life on this earth with her ever generous, life-giving love. We give thanks for the streams and for the rivers and for the oceans. We give thanks for the weather beings who help distribute the water around the earth, who bring their energies where they're needed and who help regulate the way that we live here. We give thanks to all of the weather beings, to the winds, the four winds, to the rains, to the thunder beings. And we send our gratitude and thanks to the sun, who shines life upon us and brings heat and warmth and energy to life on earth. We give thanks for the moon. We give thanks for her gentle light and her ever-changing face and the way that she moves the waters of the earth and the waters within us. And we honour and recognise her for that. And we give thanks for the star beings, these ancient pieces of light who inspire us and guide us and have provided a map for life for so many millions of years. And now that we've brought our hearts and minds together, we'd really like to invite you to take a moment to tune in and feel your heart, feel your belly, and feel what you're feeling grateful for in this moment. And if you felt to write that in the comments, we'd really love to share that together. Feels like such a beautiful connecting thing to share gratitude. Today I'm feeling really grateful for the gentle rain that's been falling where we are in Sussex. And feeling the happiness of the trees as it soaks into the earth and they drink it up. And for the smell of the freshly rained upon earth.
I'm feeling very grateful today for the children that we worked with this morning and their joy and bright spirits, and for the elder tree that we harvested the blossom from and made food and tea and beads and told stories about. And it was a very beautiful day with the children in the forest today.
It was.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to see these thanks coming in.
For our sunflower garden in Colorado from Paddy.
For the beautiful turning of the seasons from Jane.
Visit with my family at the ocean from Terry.
Grateful to be here to help my daughter to care for her newborn son. Oh, and her time of loss. She recently lost her husband. Thank you for sharing that. Listening while tending the vegetable garden. So grateful for the soft, gentle rain. Oh, it's all jumping around.
For the rhythms of life that ground me. Thank you for music.
Yeah. Beautiful Anne Beer. Grateful for this familiar and beautiful Thanksgiving to Mother Earth in the Obod context. She says a simple version of this each morning. Beautiful. Grateful for music. Grateful for the winter sunrise. Grateful for birdsong. Feeling grateful for the wonderful place I live in, from Linda. Thank you. Oh, it's lovely. It just feels like a wave of beautiful, heartful gratitude. So let's just also, within that feeling of the heart, send that out wherever it's needed most to bless the world at this time, and send that love into this world. So we'd love, in this short little window we've got to share with you all, Erica just began the session talking about the children's forest, and we do these 4 steps with the children. So we just thought actually a nice way to share more about it would be to talk you through it as if you were one of the children with us, so that you can feel it and understand it. So most of the children that we're working with are children that we're already doing forest school sessions with. And the first step of the journey is the forest experience. So if you'd like to just have a little moment of feeling like whatever age child you'd like to be, I don't know what that would be for you. And just imagine the excitement as you meet in the morning. We're going to take you in on an autumn version of this little journey, because we really do most of our tree planting in the autumn. So let's imagine that we meet up as a circle of people, children, and there's the forest school adults there as well. And we meet up, we share a gratitude, and then we go into the woods. And just that smell of the forest, when you enter the forest and that smell first hits you, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful feeling. And perhaps it's just rained the night before, so you've got the water just hanging on the leaves, and sometimes we might even just have a little drink from the droplets on the beech leaves as we go into the woods. Perhaps we might play some hide and seek games in the woods as we're walking in, and then we'll have some time for exploring. So maybe you might be one of the children that would like to just go and immediately go down to the stream and start paddling and playing and building dams. Or maybe you would like to just go and explore and make dens with your friends. Whatever you feel drawn to, this is your magical forest time, your magical forest world. And perhaps on that journey, we're also bringing baskets with us. So let's imagine that we've brought our baskets this morning, and we're also doing some foraging. We're foraging for some nuts, perhaps some hazelnuts, because it's that time of year when the hazelnuts are falling, and the children just absolutely love foraging for food. So we gather some hazelnuts, maybe we gather some hawthorn berries, some sloes, some crab apples, whatever's there ripe in the forest, and we're going to take them with us into the woods, and there we're going to prepare them. Maybe we're going to roast some nuts today, or maybe we're going to make some hawthorn syrup to put on our pancakes, or roast some sloes. But whatever we do, we're going to keep the seeds as well, and keep some of those seeds, and show the children how to plant them into pots of soil so that we can grow them into trees. and tend them later for other children's forests into saplings. So we begin that journey of reciprocity, of enjoying the bounty of nature and also remembering how we can give back and how we can do that in a practical way. So then we're probably going to gather around the fire. So all the children help to find the dry sticks, and we come around our fire, and there it's time to light the fire. Perhaps the children themselves might light the tinder bundle with a fire striker, and maybe they've had some experience of that before, or if they're new to it, we'll show them how to do it. And so there, it's time for us to have a story. So we're going to share with you a story, in a short story, a short version of a longer version of a story we tell to the children before we do the Children's Forest Project, or as part of that. So it begins a long, long time ago, when the earth, the Mother Earth, was sleeping, and she was sleeping under her thick blanket of ice and snow. And she had been sleeping for thousands of years there. And she was having dreams, and in her dreams she was dreaming of all the children that she would love to come and live on her and with her. And she dreamt of the plants and the trees and the animals and all those children that she'd love to come and be there. And at a certain time, there was a stirring within the land, and Father Sun started to warm up his rays and melt that snowy blanket on the Mother Earth and wake her up with his warmth and tender love. And so then the waters began to flow, and the rivers flowed, and the valleys were formed. And as all that ice and snow melted, the land was bare, and Mother Earth's dreams began to come true. And the first beings that of her children that came and lived there were the grasses and the tundra. And then she called in her tree children, and it was the birch children that first came. And they flew in on their tiny little seeds and began to grow, and they grew up all silvery and bright in the moonlight. And they helped make the soil good for all the other trees to grow. So where their leaves fell, they made this beautiful soil, so that then the willows could come, and they came on their downy little parachutes, and they came onto those wet, muddy soils and began to grow. And where they grew roots that held the riverbanks firm. And then the bees could come, and the bees could help pollinate the forest. And so it was that tree after tree came and arrived in this land, and as they came, the insects came, and as the insects came, the birds came, and as the birds came, they brought the seeds of the berry and fruit trees in their bellies, and then they began to grow. So we began to get all our lovely fruit and berry trees. And eventually, far from the south, came Jay, and Jay brought the acorn. And when the acorns began to grow, then so many more species could grow. As you know, the oak is the king of the forest, and he can support more life than any others. And as all these tree beings came, the animals came with them, and the forest began to be full of the squirrel and badgers and fox, and deer came. And following the deer came the children of the sun, and they were known as the children of the sun because wherever they went, they liked to make a little fire, a little piece of the sun. And that brought them a lot of connection, and it gave them a lot of warmth, because they didn't have fur like the animals, or feathers like the birds, and they often got cold. So they took their fire with them, and that helped them also to keep connected in their hearts. And the trees just loved the people. They just found them so curious and creative. And so they gave them their branches. And whenever they gave them their branches, the people made amazing dens and houses to live in, and made tools and all the things that they needed. And the trees gave them firewood, the trees gave them food, the trees gave them everything they needed to live. And this beautiful forest was a place where everybody could thrive. And the people learned from the animals too, and they learned how to move quietly like the fox, and how to see keenly like the hawk. And so they loved their brother and sister animals as well for all the teachings that they gave them. And all was well, until the winds of change blew, and Mother Earth began to dream another dream for the people of the sun, and it was the dream of forgetfulness.
And as the dream of forgetfulness came to the land, the people forgot how the trees had welcomed them into the forest and taken care of them. And they began to cut down the trees and take what they weren't given, and they built more and more homes. And as they did so, there was more and more people, and they cut down more and more trees, and over time they stopped learning from the animals, and they stopped learning from the trees. And as they built more homes, they began to live in towns. And over time, the towns grew bigger and bigger, and the forest grew smaller and smaller, until eventually there weren't that many people living in the forest anymore. They were living in towns, and they weren't sitting around fires together anymore. And they were focusing more on what they needed rather than feeling grateful for what they'd been given. And as time passed in this way, the rivers began to run less clear, and there was less animals living in them, and the soil wasn't so good anymore, and the air became dirty, and the people noticed that in the pockets of forest that were left, there weren't that many animals living in them, and there weren't that many birds there. And as time went on, and people lived in this way, some people began to look around and think, I'm sure this isn't how it used to be. I remember that there used to be a huge chorus of birdsong in the morning, and that we used to gather food from the forest, and why is that not how it is anymore? And then a lot of the people weren't feeling happy, and they began to wonder what it was that was stopping them from feeling real joy for life every day. And so some people began to study, and they looked into what builds soil and how soil is good and how the water systems work and how the weather systems work. And they began to ask lots of questions. And as they studied, they realized that trees support us in many more ways than we knew. And there were other people who began to go to the forests, and they discovered that when they went and spent time in the forest, that their hearts felt peaceful again. And so they began to spend more and more time in the forest, and they would light fires. And over time, they realized that the wood from the fires came from the trees, and they would give their gratitude to the trees. And then they learned about the different plants they could eat, and they gathered nuts and berries. And again, they gave gratitude to the trees. And when these people were spending time in the forest, they smelt the soil, and they realized that in the forest, the soil smelt really good. And they listened, and they heard the bird song, and they realized that it was in the forest that there were still birds living. And it was in the forest that the animals were still living. And as these people spent more time in the forest, they began to feel how much the trees cared for them and all of life. And the winds of change blew again, and Mother Earth's dream started to return. And one day, some of these people were standing on the edge of the forest, and they looked out over the land, and they saw fields, and they saw towns in the distance. And it was as if they could hear Mother Earth's dream, and they suddenly imagined what the land would look like if it was covered in forest, and they felt in their beings how much life there would be if all of this land was forested again. And so these people began to plant trees. And as they plant trees, they wove their hearts with love back into the earth, and more people joined them. And more trees were planted. And as these people watched the trees grow, and they watched the animals return and the birds return, they began to feel a deep joy inside themselves again, and they began to feel a sense of purpose. And remember that our job here is as the gardeners of the earth and the guardians of all of life. And so more and more forests were planted, and they spread over the land. And then many generations in the future, the children of the sun were sitting around their fires in these now ancient forests. And they were friends with the trees and with animals and the birds and themselves and one another. And they would give thanks to the ancestors for hearing the dream of the Mother Earth. And they would remember when the forests first began to be planted. And these were the children's forests. And this is a story that we tell the children before we go and plant forests with them. And it's very sweet, often at the end of the story. The children say, we want to plant children's forests. We want to be those people.
So then we go up to the fields or the land where we're going to plant the trees, and we take them up there, and I just want you to imagine this. We've already planned and prepped the site, and we've got the trees markers out where we're going to plant. And in the middle of every children's forest, we have a children's fire, and the children's fire, I'm sure many of you have heard of it, but it comes from an Indigenous practice of when we light the children's fire in the centre, we remember the children of all the species yet to come, those who haven't been born yet. So we talk about that with the children, and we light that fire, and we say, so when we plant our trees, we're planting it for the children of the trees and the children of all the animals, and your children and great grandchildren, children yet to come. And every time we return to that place, we're going to light that children's fire. And then we take a moment with them around the fire to write on a little piece of birch bark scroll their wish for the future generations. So we say, can you imagine into a wish for a bright future for the world in even maybe 200 years' time, in 7 generations' time? And they take some time and they write their wish on that little scroll, and that little scroll gets planted with their tree that they plant, the first trees that they plant in the children's forest. So
we were wondering if you'd like to take a moment to feel far forwards into the future and imagine this beautiful, bright, forested, vibrant future that we're going to create together, and to take a moment to feel into your wish for the future. And if you felt to share that in the comments so that we can all see them, that would be really lovely. It's a really beautiful thing to hear all of the children's wishes for the future, and it feels like the wishes are the first beginnings of the forest, and that's going to grow as much as the forest is to tend our future and the future generations.
Yeah, so please feel very welcome and free to share what would you write on your scroll to plant into the Mother Earth for your wish for the future generations. You could share that if you like, and we're going to just carry on as well to explain the next part of the project. So then we plant the first grove of trees with the children, actually as a sacred grove around that central fire, and we plant them in the cardinal directions and the 8 directions, in fact, so north, northeast, east. So that first 8 trees are planted quite specifically, and sometimes with the children we choose which kind of tree should be in which direction, and then they spread out in rings after that and in sways. And perhaps if you have a little look at one of our children's forest films, you'll be able to get to see this kind of design that we've developed actually with the children, and with some input from some permaculture advice as well on how to get the most kind of edge habitat for animals as well.
And it turns out it looks like a galaxy spiraling out of the children's fire in the centre.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful. So then we show the children how to plant trees. We show them how to do that really well, and digging the hole just right. And we also bring in some soil from the nearest forest next to the field where we're planting, to bring in that mycelium soil. So when we in the Thanksgiving, we were remembering all the mycorrhizal fungi, and we talked to the children about that, the mycorrhizal fungi, so that their trees will be able to communicate with their friends' trees, and all those trees will be able to grow really well with that special soil. So then we plant the trees, and then we celebrate. We dance and we sing, and we have our tree blessing ceremony at the end. So we'd love to share with you the little song that we've been singing with the children at the end of our planting. Yeah, so it goes like this. We sing our blessing to the trees. May golden sun shine through your leaves. May rain fall clear and fair winds blow, that ancient forests here may grow. May rain fall clear and fair winds blow, that ancient forests here may grow. So in a nutshell, excuse the pun, that's basically the kind of beginning of what we do with the Children's Forest. And then they come back and tend that forest space over all the years to come. So we've now got joyfully celebrating the fact that there's 10 children's forests planted in the UK now. And we'd love for it to be a worldwide vision for the children and for the children of the trees as well. And there's over 3,000 trees been planted with lots of wishes from lots and lots of children. And yeah, really grateful for this chance to come and speak to you about it. And if you'd like to know more, please do. We'd love your support. And whether that's from maybe you know somebody with land who would love to welcome a children's forest project on their land, or maybe you are work with children and you'd like to get involved and we could support you in some way with finding land to do a children's forest project, or maybe you'd just like to
hold this vision in your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Spend a bit of time really just dreaming into that bright future with us. And I'm sure you're all doing that already. And we just really believe in the power of our hearts to hold that vision, and that there really will be a bright future for the children yet to come. So thank you all so much.
It's been really beautiful to read your wishes at the side of the screen. Thank you so much for sharing them. It's really heartwarming.
Yeah.
If you'd like to stay in contact with us, we have a Facebook page if you look up Children's Forest. We have a website, which is childrensforest.earth. And if you go to the website, you can sign up for our newsletter. So if you felt like you'd like to stay in touch and hear more about what we're doing, we'd really love it if you would like to sign up to our newsletter, and we can stay in contact with such a group of gorgeous beings as yourselves. It's been really lovely to feel you're there and to read your reflections and your wishes and your gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really wonderful to see you and meet you. Well, I haven't seen you, but feel your presence with us, and yeah, really enjoying and appreciating your heartfelt wishes. Thank you so much. And many blessings to all of you.
Oh, many blessings. I can just see, oh look, Carly's children are named Forest and River. That's so cool. And I can see that somebody else asked for the website address, and it's www.childrensforest.earth. And we can write it in the comments if we can figure out how, so that you can see it in there.
Yeah. Oh, go well.
Yeah, many blessings to you all. Thank you so much, and really wishing you well in all of your projects and your lives.
Thank you.
Night night.
Night night, everybody. Or good morning if you're living somewhere on the other side.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, wherever you are. Many, many blessings.